3, 2, 1. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you are. And for some ungodly reason, you still have the boredom to watch these clips. We're in Hungary, alongside with my colleague from the Romanian language podcast, Alin Ciubotaru.
Hello,
and,
people.
With our temporary guest and very old friend of the sofa, Mr. Dániel Schönberger.
Jó napot kívánok!
Welcome for the first time in front of the camera.
Yeah.
And we've been plotting to take over the world for more than 5 years now, but this is the first time you accepted to come in front of the camera. So let's get straight to the business. We're in the honque campaign here in Hungary, and there's 2 ballot boxes. One of them is for the parliamentary election, and the other one is for the referendum.
Yes.
Older subscribers might remember several months ago, there was, last year essentially, there was this scandal with the so-called publicity law, which the parliament has passed, and then the Soros went full bananas. How dare you have a law that says thou shalt not bring pornography to children? So in a propaganda move, essentially, Orbán Viktor said, okay, now we'll have the people decided, and out of pure coincidence, the referendum will take place in the same day as the general election.
Coincidence.
Out of pure coincidence.
It's not just coincidence, it's also convenient to hold the...
Yes, I know, of course, I'm sure logistical concerns dictated this decision, obviously. So tell us about the referendum. I mean, are there that many people that actually care about this issue? Because similar thing has been tried in Slovakia a few years ago, and nobody turned up for the vote.
Yeah, I mean, people know perfectly well what's going on in the West, because, you know, they have the internet and they can see. So I'd say at least conservatives, you know, people in the countryside, they definitely care about it. And, you know...
But basically the law is against pornography or against pornography and sexual education?
Well, it's basically against sexual education towards children, or, you know, sexual material towards children. It's not specific to homosexuality or pedophilia or gender change. It's a part of it, but the law itself is not completely specific to that. It's any kind of sexual material aimed at children purposefully, basically.
So basically you're not allowed to show dicks to kids unless it's biology classes.
Yeah. You cannot promote any kind of sexuality, like sexual material. You cannot promote it intentionally.
So it concerns the heterosexuality also.
Yes.
There's no discrimination there.
Yeah.
Don't see what the fuck is the problem.
I mean, homosexuality is mentioned, but it's not specific to it.
I don't see the problem. Why do they have a scandal on that?
Well, we don't have the Soros to tell us why, but obviously the referendum was used as a bludgeoning tool against the opposition.
It's basically just a propaganda move. So they can point to something here. That's what the people want. So we can't do anything. We can't go against the people. We are a democracy and all that stuff.
Of course.
We call them opposition, but are they really an opposition? I mean, we've been to their leader's city and we've seen more Orban posters than himself, for fuck's sake.
Yes. So speaking of democracy, we're taping this 2 days before the election.
Yes.
Everyone will be seeing it a few days after the election once I get back to Romania. But and yesterday, the day before we're taping this, we all 3 of us went to Hódmezővásárhely or Ionești, where the leader of the opposition, even that sounds
the candidate,
the Spitzenkandidat of the opposition, of the unified opposition, which is not really that unified, but let's let that aside, hails from. And while we're talking about this, you're all watching footage from the city in question, and you know we're considering street interviews, but who to interview. As you can see, the streets are basically empty.
Yeah.
Who the hell is this guy? Who the hell is Marki-Zay?
Well, he
In addition to why he's being gay.
Well, he was originally born here in Hungary and then moved to America for a relatively long period of time. And then he was originally a Fidesz voter and he got disappointed with Fidesz. And when he moved back, he ran for mayor in this small town called Hódmezővásárhely, and he won. And the significance of that was that this town was a Fidesz stronghold at the time, and he managed to actually win an election there, which was a great victory for the opposition. I don't know who lives there, but you know they voted for him, and
all three people thought that maybe this chap is.
I don't know if it's the same as in Romania, but in Romania, in local elections, when they elect mayors and local councils, the man counts more than the party behind him.
yeah,
Sometimes it's the same here too.
Also, when they get in the second tour of elections, the man, let's say the incumbent mayor, made some mistakes. Even if the party is strong, the people will fuck him over and elect someone else.
yeah.
So I don't think it's a Fidesz at fault for losing that town hall. I think it's more the ex-mayor.
Well, it wasn't actually the ex-mayor who ran, because the ex-mayor retired from that position, so they appointed to run some unknown Fidesz guy. So
There we go.
basically a nobody.
He didn't won because he's good. He won because his counter candidate was a cabbage, basically.
Yeah, because the previous mayor is the one that you told us that he built that tram all the way back to Szeged. It would have been quite difficult to argue against that guy's accomplishments. But if he didn't run,
because that guy is actually popular like countrywide. He has an actual following. I can't really understand why, but you know he has an actual following.
So
and,
basically, Fidesz didn't lose the elections. Their candidate lost.
It was basically an unknown candidate. I have no idea what the name of that guy is. He was some guy who is, I don't remember.
Some Fidesz NPC.
Yeah, basically.
Let's put somebody there so we don't make us
make a fool of
ourselves.
Right. Why is he the Spitzenkandidaten of the unified opposition?
So basically Hungary has been in complete campaign mode for the past 1.5 years.
Yes.
As it happens.
And the opposition parties held a primary election. It was taken, the idea was taken from the American primaries and all that. And the reason they did that is because they had to unify, because the Hungarian election system is made in a way that it is a good advantage to have a big party with a lot of voters. And if it's divided, then it's basically an automatic Fidesz win, because they are a big party with a lot of votes, and the small parties have no chance to actually win an election. And so they banded together and they decided to hold a primary. And at the first round of that primary, Marki-Zay Péter got third place at that primary, but at the time it was Karácsony Gergely who was the favorite to win.
The current mayor of Budapest.
Yeah, the current mayor of Budapest. He was the favorite to win, and even Fidesz thought that he was going to win, and all the Fidesz propaganda was trying to, destroy his reputation, basically. And apparently it worked too well. And so the one who won the first round of the primaries was Dobrev Klára, who is the wife of Gyurcsány Ferenc, who is
the chap who bankrupted Hungary.
Who is well hated here in Hungary. And so what they decided then is Karácsony, who got second place, stepped back in favor of Marki-Zay Péter. And then the second round of the primaries was basically, do you want Gyurcsány's wife or this guy?
Or this NPC. Okay. Fair enough.
And the reasoning behind voting for him was first of all, everybody hates Gyurcsány, and second of all, the guy actually has conservative creds. He's a Catholic who actually goes to church. He's a father of like 7 children, and yeah, he also took some ideas from actual American Christians.
I'm very curious how the electorate of the opposition makes peace with their beliefs and the fact that this guy goes to church.
Yeah, no, the reasoning was that they wanted the disappointed Fidesz votes. So that's why the reasoning was we need a conservative guy at the head of the left-wing unified rainbow coalition.
And he'll be voted only by the disappointed Fidesz votes.
And that will bring in the disappointed Fidesz vote, but it backfired severely. Because...
The fuck? Why wouldn't it? The guy is a conservative and you put him in front of the left.
They could have paid me 20,000 forints and I would have told them that this is exactly what is going to happen. In a 5-minute conversation over the phone.
They did not expect that Marki-Zay Péter was a loon. Because, you know, nobody knew the guy. The 3 people who lives in Hódmezővásárhely knew the guy, but basically nobody else. So...
And they couldn't make street interviews because who the fuck are you going to interview?
I mean, you could have taken a focus group, but that would have meant to interview the whole city. In any event, go ahead.
So what ended up happening is he started talking about a bunch of stupid shit, being stupid in public and saying dumb stuff. And not only did he not conquer disappointed Fidesz voter, or at least, well, we'll see how the election goes, but I don't think so. But also he has viewpoints that are haram in the left.
So he got rid of other voters.
And so, yeah, he manages to have people to stay home on the left side, because this guy is insane. Basically, that's the reasoning.
So basically, they didn't want those from the Fidesz, and they got rid of others from their party.
Yeah,
and
basically.
they expect to win.
Yeah, basically. I mean, the I hate Orbán vote is very strong, so they will get votes, and they will get many votes, but I don't know if the enthusiasm will be high. I don't think so.
If the weather on the election day will be as haram as it is today,
the left will stay home because they'll get the cough.
Yeah, let's talk about, because we kept on saying their party, but it's not one party.
Yeah.
So it's the Rainbow Coalition, which is not unironically how they call themselves. So no, I'm not trying to poke fun necessarily. And it's a part of it is what? Is the fascists from Jobbik, the socialists.
Jobbik aren't fascists anymore, dude.
Yeah,
they're
I
center right.
Yeah, I know. And Momentum, and who else?
There are some small parties that are basically came off of the Socialist Party. It's called Párbeszéd. There is a party that was founded in 2010, basically as the opposition of the opposition, called LMP. And now they band it together anyway, because, you know, now they don't want to oppose the opposition.
Well, you know, the standard left-wing factionalism. I mean, our PSD has... How many children does PSD have in Romania?
Fuck it. Who
Does
the fuck
anyone
knows
even know? Right. And you said that Marki-Zay Péter is a loon. Can you give a few examples for our audience?
Well, yeah, he held a live stream every single Sunday.
Jeez, I know where this is going.
He held a live stream every single Sunday, and then he went to some TV to apologize for what he said last Sunday, because what he said is always something very stupid. For example, there is this Hungarian YouTuber, left-wing YouTuber I told you about, who is very well known, and he basically called him a commie faggot. He said that he's a commie faggot, but I still love him.
And let me guess, the YouTuber got offended by that.
No, I don't think he had much of a reaction to it, but
I think his voters got more offended than the...
Or that, yeah. His audience got offended on behalf of the YouTuber.
yeah. He also called the refugees coming from Transcarpathia Putinists, the Hungarian ones.
We talked about that in the Romanian podcast. Jesus fucking Christ, those are Hungarians. And he called them Putinists, basically putting a target on their back.
Yes, there are many known attacks against the minority in Transcarpathia. Some Nazi groups, bombing buildings of the Hungarians and burning them down and stuff like that. And so calling them a Putinist when Putin is actually invading the country is probably not a good idea. And so conservative propagandists and thinkers got actually upset, like not propaganda upset, actually upset.
I wonder why.
So for the first time in the history of campaigning, when someone was upset for real.
Yeah.
Wasn't lying.
Or exaggerating for clicks. Yeah, I've read the communiques from the Hungarian Transcarpathian organizations in Beregovo, and those were pretty damning. I mean, sure, we also know that some of those organizations are funded by Fidesz, but still, come on.
Yeah, and he also said that the opposition represents commies and fascists, which is true.
Which is true.
Why would you say that? Basically. Yeah, he said that they represent commies and fascists separately, so everybody can preserve their own way of thinking, and we are unified against Orban.
How do you unify commies and fascists?
Well, that's not difficult, but if there is a common enemy. The commies and fascists together torn Poland apart. So it's doable if there is a common enemy. The problem is that
after the elections,
if you manage to take down the enemy, then what? Because that was my next question. Let's assume, because again we're taping before the election, so let's assume they win. Okay, let's assume that the Rainbow Coalition gets 48% and Fidesz 46 or whatever, right? And let's assume they win. Then what?
Well, they have talked about changing the constitution, or well, not the constitution, the alaptörvény, which is a bit separate from the constitution, but
it's like Talmud and Torah. Torah is the law, Talmud is the explanation.
Yeah, they want to change the jurisprudence.
Yeah, but they want to do it with a simple majority, which is illegal.
Unconstitutional.
Which is illegal. So they basically want to do a putsch, and the parties hate each other. I mean, the unified parties basically. The only thing that unifies them is fuck Orban. So
we've seen this movie before.
And Marki-Zay Péter has no party of his own, so he's basically subject to whatever the unified opposition wants him to do. Yes.
So he won the election in Hódmezővásárhely as independent.
Yes.
Okay. So it's basically one guy. Okay, fair enough.
Yes.
Okay, so what exactly do they want to change?
Well, they want to, move towards the West.
What does that even mean?
They want to face the West. That basically
invade Austria.
they basically unironically say, yeah, we want to do whatever Brussels tells us, and NATO tells us, and the Americans tell us. It's their thinking is not that we are a country, we are at the table, we have a say. No, their thinking is, well, we want to align with whatever they want from us, and they unironically say that
with the Supreme Soviet. Or the
Politburo.
Yeah, the Politburo.
They want to be with
and they want to get rid of corruption.
What does that even mean?
After a couple of 100 years as a Pashaluk, haven't you learned that it's not okay to have an empire leading you?
Well, just asking. The Hungarian nation learned, but that segment of the opposition didn't. So some lessons of history take.
Truth be told, some of their voters are younger than the last empire.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I mean, in Hungarian society, it has been a constant division of people who want to, serve from inside the country, and people who want to serve people from outside the country. So we had that with the Soviet Union, somewhat with the Habsburgs, and it's a constant division, and that did not disappear. And now it's Brussels and the Western powers that they want to serve.
So you basically have citizens with daddy issues and normal citizens.
Okay, what are because most recently, and let's talk about some geopolitics too, because most recently, over the last month, essentially, since the outbreak since the onset of the war in our neighboring country,
Yes.
There was a split
Yes.
in the so-called V4 group.
Yes.
Because Andrzej Duda and the Slovak elite, and to a certain extent the new Czech elite, because Babiš lost the election, were more on the same line with with the United States. We gotta fuck the Russians, or at least help the Ukrainians fuck the Russians. Whereas Orbán Viktor had a more nuanced approach.
Yes.
The opposition's talking point, I guess, is no, we're going to do whatever NATO tells us.
Yes.
The problem is that they don't know what NATO wants.
Yeah, I mean, Marki-Zay Péter was calling for sending troops to Ukraine, before NATO said just about anything. And, then of course the next day he clarified, I meant when NATO tells us to send troops,
It's kind of like Joe Biden, who discussed about regime change in Kremlin, and then the counselor was like, no, but you didn't hear it correctly. Of course the president didn't call for regime change in Kremlin. No, oh yes he did. Of course he did. So
basically he has the right idea when it comes to Ukraine and NATO. He wants to send troops there even before NATO tells him, because that was his idea when he made the communique.
Marki-Zay Péter.
Yeah, I mean, it was his idea. He just says whatever comes to his mind, basically, with no control.
You can't put rely on him to be consistent.
Yeah, no.
Will there be, in your view, and again I'll have to rely on smaller amount of sources because the weather is terrible, so we can't really do street interviews yet. Hopefully we'll be able to by the election. Will there be, how much will this influence? I mean, how much does geopolitics...
Well, it completely redefined the campaign, because the campaign so far has been about the referendum, some economic questions, and also let's not be slaves to Brussels and all that. And basically it got redefined: do you want war or do you want peace? And Orbán Viktor says, I am peace, and the opposition is war, and the opposition is saying, do you want West or do you want East? And so Orbán Viktor is East and we are West. That's basically how the lines became divided.
Yeah, so how the lines were drawn. We were watching one of Marki-Zay's ads in front of the town hall, where he was defining the debate in these terms. Now, whether the extent to which that is a fair assessment is, of course, a separate discussion.
Yes.
But there is some truth to it, though, because Orbán Viktor and Fidesz writ large, over the last 12 years since they've been in power, they have had an approach that is more not Eastern, but definitely in the gray zone. Well, more friendlier than they should have been with the CCP, more friendlier than they should have been with the Vladimir Putin.
Well, it's called the Eastern Opening. That's how they call it, basically.
Kind of like Ostpolitik in Deutschland?
I have no idea what that is.
Okay, fair enough. Then I'll skip that.
So they call it the opening towards the East. And the idea is basically the old Hungarian independence idea of preserving our independence. And, if we, stay at the side of a single empire, let's call it an empire, the West, then our independence is under threat, because we are a small country and they can basically tell us whatever they want us to do. But if we open up to the East, and there are some competing interests within the country, from Turkey, from Russia, and from China, then Hungarian independence is much easier to preserve because these powers are going to compete and they will be interested in developing Hungary and actually, supporting Hungary. And
history tells us one thing. Whenever a state decided to be neutral between two large empires, ended up killed. Yeah.
Well, except
destroyed.
for Switzerland.
Yeah, but Switzerland does not allow. It's not in the European Union.
Yeah.
And it's also not in any large-scale economic accord with China or with Russia, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Hungary is in the European Union and
Yes.
NATO,
Yes.
but then tries to play neutral. It's a much more dangerous game.
Yeah, it is a very
you
dangerous
end
game.
up crushed like I mean, for a couple of 100 years you had the Turks here telling you what to do. Now you're opening to the east. I don't know if it's an opening really. It's more like a rape from the east.
I mean, it can be debated if the strategy works or not, or it certainly has some excesses, like the Fudan University that Fidesz wanted to build. That basically means training CCP shields here in Hungary. So it has some excesses, but it's the strategy, and it's a geopolitical strategy of Viktor Orbán, and that's the reasoning behind it, basically.
Yeah, the problem that I see is that whilst I disagree with Orbán Viktor's strategy, the so-called opposition, their strategy, it comes off as even worse.
Yeah,
I don't know how to put
it. It's basically just, let's be slaves to the West. That's their geopolitical strategy.
In terms that Hungarians would understand, it's basically opening up to everyone to do business, or opening your ass to Brussels.
Yeah, so basically the opposition strategy would be, let's bend over.
Yeah,
basically.
Let's bend over with no other objections, no further objections.
Right. Considering demographics, is it really the case that youngsters prefer the Hódmezővásárhely loon more than, because on the other hand, Fidesz has invested quite a lot in youth activism, and so is there indeed a demographic split or generational gap, as the mainstream term goes?
I'm not so sure about it. There is definitely the Budapest versus the rest of the country divide.
As in every other country?
But I don't know. There are many conservative youth here in Hungary, including me. And I don't really know if it's actually. It has always been a propaganda point that only these old pensioners vote for Fidesz and the young people vote for progress and the hip left and all that kind of. Yeah. And there probably are more youngsters who vote for the left, but I'm not so sure that it's like a big majority, like 75% of them. I don't think so.
Because you have shown us, at least on the Telegram group, and I played one of them in the Romanian language podcast, the youth-oriented art from the opposition. It's just terrible. There used to be a time when liberals or leftists were the creative force.
Oh yeah.
What happened with that?
The opposition campaign strategy is, let's just say it's recent. They have not really had time to actually forge a good messaging, or to try to think about what they want to tell people, because when Marki-Zay Péter won the primary elections, he basically ran as the opposition candidate. So that's how he won.
And now he's leading the opposition.
And the opposition was not able to, create a list of MPs that they want to run for months. I think they finished it in February, this February.
I doubt only the youngsters vote for Marki-Zay, because the fact that he's a Catholic, that he's a father of 7 children, attracts a lot of, let's say, second youth citizens, 35 to 50, because those are people interested in family. Not only the youngsters.
On the other hand, this country has a lot of perks, fiscal perks for larger families, and voting for Orban means you get to keep them.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think that those are detrimental, but they are still popular, and
And we're not talking about what makes economic sense.
Yeah,
We've
of course.
already established that there's only socialism, so we're talking about what's popular in the ballot box.
Yeah, and it's very popular. I mean, the policies of Fidesz with the rezsicsökkentés, the money you pay for utilities on your house, and also the family support, and all sorts of these socialistic policies, and also the conservative policies like the border wall and the anti-pedo referendum, basically. I mean, it has a big base.
Yeah, speaking of the border wall, there are at least two parties in the Rainbow Coalition that actively opposed the border wall.
Yeah.
So if they win the election, what are they going to do? Tear it apart?
Marki-Zay Péter said that they are going to keep the wall.
And didn't that upset the left wing? I mean, the left wing is totally against walls. Any sort of walls of
Marki-Zay Péter basically upsets everybody like every other day, so
So there's that.
How the fuck do they hope to win the elections with that kind of locomotive?
Well, atâta s-a putut.
well, the I hate Orban vote, that's basically what they are going with.
So that's the main strategy.
Yeah, but that doesn't
I mean,
end up
it's
well.
not that bad of a strategy. I mean, it's
I'm not
a
saying
strong vote.
I'm not saying it's a bad one. I'm just questioning whether it's a winning strategy.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, you said that they wrapped up their MP list only in February.
Yeah.
Why did it take so long? Because the primary happened in September, if I recall correctly. So why did it need 5 months to?
But bickering. Bickering amongst the parties. They were, of course, trying to preserve their own power base within the Rainbow Coalition, and so it was basically bickering among themselves. So yeah, they basically had nothing to show that now these are the people who run, and now we are going to tell you vote for these people for this and that reason. No, they did not have that because they did not have the people, because they were bickering about who to run, basically.
Remember in Romania when they decided on the candidates for a couple of months before the elections?
Yeah, but that was only Save Romania Union, who they're dumb. But in this Rainbow Coalition, I mean, there is at least one highly experienced party, that would be the Socialists, of course. And Jobbik has been running in elections for several times already. It's not a new party. So at least these two you would have thought, or at least I would have thought, that they were able to dictate the terms in practical terms. As in, look, this is how things are done, let's do them the proper way. We've been here before.
Look at the candidate. If that's the candidate,
thing
don't make any high hopes on...
Don't assume shit. I know what you mean, but I also know that the candidate was decided via popular elections, whereas the technicalities of the MP list should have been decided by the top brass of each party.
Yeah, by December.
But at the latest.
Yeah, basically. The biggest party in the coalition is decode, which is the Gyurcsány party, and that's the party that Marki-Zay defeated in the primaries. So he basically won with the anti-Gyurcsány, anti-decode vote, and now he basically wants their support, and they have given it officially. But what you can see from the campaign that most of the operatives and high-ups of the opposition basically took their hand off. And even Gyurcsány coined the term, he called Marki-Zay Péter the captain. Lead the way, captain.
You wanted to be the boss, now, пожалуйста, please be the boss. Right.
The captain.
Right.
You know that in our history we have a captain.
Yeah, it has the terrible vibes in Romanian, but yeah, okay, fair enough. But then again, in a coalition with Jobbik, it makes perfect sense.
True.
And, there were some monks like, Marki-Zay Péter telling him, please don't call me a captain, because Fidesz people are making fun of me.
But it is funny. I mean, has there ever been the case of an election, at least in post-communism, that was so honky as this one?
I don't know of any. I mean, I'm not that old, but I don't know of any.
Because I started looking last night. We established that today we're going to wake up at constitutional hours, so that is after 10 a.m.
Yeah.
So as a result, I was able to stay up late, a bit further late last night. And I started looking for the campaigns in 92 and in 96. And there were honks, but none anyone near close to this one.
No, I mean, the candidate is funny. I mean, Marki-Zay Péter.
Yes.
Because he's just being stupid in public every single time. So he's a honk generator, basically.
Yeah, and Orbán Viktor still has a memeable face, so it's easy to meme. It's easy to, and I was talking about the creativity, because on the other hand, although Fidesz's songs from the campaign are primitive, but they're funny. They're attractive. You remember them. They're catchy, even though they're quite primitive. Whereas the opposition, the Rainbow Coalition songs, are highly complex. They're like a leftist meme. They're like a wall of text with a lot, and nobody remembers that. Nobody unironically listens to that. And
I tried to. I honestly tried to, as a political operative. I tried to fucking listen to one of those songs.
yeah, you should turn on the subtitles, because many of them do have English subtitles, because it's a global homo coalition.
It's still horrible.
Yeah, the messaging I guess makes sense, but it's just too much of a wall of text.
It's horrible.
I mean, I don't even remember the main catchphrase of the opposite.
You can't, because they're
I don't
forgettable.
remember, but I do remember the Fidesz one. Piros volt a paradicsom, nem sárga. Magyarország előre megy, nem hátra.
Okay, now translated.
Yeah, so it was taken from the lyrics of a pop song, basically, and it says the tomato was red and not yellow, and Hungary goes forwards, not backwards. Because the basic idea between this slogan is we have already been to the Gyurcsány era. Let's not go back. Let's go forward.
Yeah, so basically Orbán Viktor is pulling a progressive talking point on the progressives, and it's working.
Yeah.
Orbán Viktor isn't that conservative himself.
Yeah, his background is of a Soros
Look at his economy.
Orbánomics is definitely not a conservative thing.
That's what I'm talking about.
Obviously.
He's more like a social democrat guy from our
He's to
country.
the left of our social democrats.
Yeah, but he's socially conservative, but
Center left on economics.
yeah.
Well, Hungarian society is
center left on economics.
It's completely statist. Like everybody.
No.
Everybody is completely statist, so it's no surprise. I mean,
So the debate is basically between having all powerful daddy and the less powerful daddy.
well, it's basically: do you want statism or a lot of statism?
As I said, all powerful daddy and less powerful daddy.
Now, admittedly, a Fidesz government is, let's just say, more competent at doing these social policies, and what I mean by that is they are more competent at passing them and making them a reality to exist.
They know how to govern.
Yeah, they know how to govern. Whereas the opposition, I'm not so sure about that.
I'm not sure that it's only competence in passing the laws, but in how they present them to the general public.
Yeah, their propaganda is much worse than the Fidesz propaganda.
Because
And they have a lot of propaganda.
some of the Orbánomics measures were actually terrible,
Yeah.
but a lot of people agreed with them.
And
Yes.
Because they were presented,
And they do.
and they were presented in such a way that the people bought them.
the Fidesz people talk reasonably, even when they talk bullshit. But they talk reasonably. They can explain why and what they do.
They don't screech. They don't.
They don't just say they don't just say honquiest. This is the progressive thing to do, and they can actually explain why.
They don't talk in slogans because they don't think in slogans.
Yeah.
Whereas too many of the opposition, they do think in slogans. If you recall, in 2019, last time I was here, we encountered the left-wing protest in front of the parliament, and all of those people there, they were thinking in slogans. There were like 1,000 of them, and they were all thinking in slogans. And the protest was basically, let us not have a national holiday celebration because nationalism is terrible. The West teaches us so. And I'm like, are you all insane? I mean, why would you do that?
It's the people that voted Gyurcsány.
No, those were the Momentum people.
Oh, even worse.
Yeah, no, those were the
the Momentum people also started originally as anti-Gyurcsány. I mean, almost all the opposition parties started as anti-Gyurcsány, and now they are.
So that's why they elected this guy to be the candidate, because Gyurcsány's wife would have split the coalition.
At this point, I would say it might have been a better choice to elect Gyurcsány's wife as a candidate.
Yeah, that's another thing. We were discussing this in the Szeged railway station as we were waiting for the train back to Budapest. Would it have been such a terrible thing to have Klára Dobrev as the opposition candidate? I mean,
at least she knows how to speak.
Yeah,
she's eloquent.
He would not have been stupid in public all the time. He might have been stupid in public sometimes, but not all the time.
Because at least she's been in politics for about a decade now.
Yeah.
So she had the time to be stupid in public and learn from some of them.
And also she has a lot of experience from her family, because
of course.
she comes from an old commie family from the socialism era, and they have a lot of experience.
Yeah, but on legislative technique, because that's another concern that I have, because it is still possible for the opposition to win.
Yeah.
Unlikely, but possible.
Yes.
And too many of their people don't know the technicalities on how to govern, how to write a law, how to enact it, how to write procedures for it, how to make sure the procedure gets implemented, how to make sure the procedure is not making things worse rather than better, even if you agree with the goal of the policy. And there's just too many of those in the opposition circles that do have prominent positions that just have no idea about any of these things.
Yeah, they'll make Orban win, and then Orban win, and then Orban win for a couple of mandates.
Terms, but yes.
It's like in our country, the USSR. Yeah, they know shit about writing laws.
Yes, and after
look at the polls.
Yeah, and after having saved Romania Union in power as a coalition for what, 9 months?
Yeah,
from
9
January
months.
to September 21.
They went from 27 to 9.
Their biggest success was, they worked so hard to flatten the Social Democrats, and they managed to. At some point, the Social Democrats were polling at 18%. After, in 2016, they got 47% at the ballot box, and in 19 and 20, they were 18, 19. This morning, the Social Democrats poll at 37%. Mostly because, okay, those guys are leftists, but at least they know what they're doing, whereas the youngish, the saviors don't. And that's what I'm concerned about, because if the opposition wins a few days from now, they'll govern for a while, and they'll make a fool out of themselves, and then Fidesz will win 80%.
Yeah, then Orban will win, and they will win, and it will win.
It will basically be a non-government, which, I mean, as a libertarian, I don't find it that bad. But then again, when it comes to geopolitics, I would not trust myself to the opposition. And all the Western influence, they would have a complete field day. There would be no one to stop them.
I don't see the people in Hungary understanding one major issue. they accuse the opposition accuses Orban of being a Putinist, while they suck it from Berlin.
Which is Moscow.
Which is Moscow,
with extra
but
steps.
extra steps,
Yeah.
basically. And people don't understand that.
They don't know.
They don't know.
They don't know. They only have the idea that the West is great, the West is progressive, it's the way forward.
The fuck, Germany just refused Ukraine weapons.
They refuse to sell them.
They have to sell them to Ukraine. How don't you know that the Germany is basically Moscow with the extra flour?
Well, their propaganda does not tell them.
And here's another aspect. Over the last 3 weeks, it has finally become kosher to say it in public that the German political class is basically a lot of Putin's useful idiots. Even Politico.eu came out and said exactly like that. Putin's useful idiots, the German political class, which up until a month ago, it was far-right extremist speech, even though we've been saying it for 7 years. But now it has become mainstream. How does the pro-Western opposition here integrate that, or
they don't talk about it?
They don't even try. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah,
but you know,
It's just radio silence. It's nothing.
I see. Yeah, but not talking about it isn't particularly helpful. At some point, everyone will find out anyway.
I don't believe that people don't know that Germany is full of useful idiots.
No, I mean, when I talk about that, people look at me like, what the hell are you talking about? So they don't know. They really don't know. They have no idea.
It's lack of information,
Yeah.
not disinformation.
Yeah, it's lack of information, basically. All they see is progressive Germany. Look how great Germany is.
Are you sure about that, mate?
Have they worked in Germany?
Some of them, yeah.
Yeah, some of them, sure.
And still believe Germany is great.
Yeah, I think they do.
Recommend them a psychiatrist.
Yes, speaking of which, the Hungarian School of Psychiatry used to be quite glorious, among the best in Europe. I wonder what the Hungarian psychiatrists have to say more recently.
About Peter Marki-Zay.
Not just Marki-Zay, Peter, but you know,
About your political class.
generally the public influencers, I guess, because we were 2 days ago we encountered in Budapest some quasi-political flash mob, but not really flash mob, with mimes, I guess is the term in English, and you know, even regular people will be like, okay, what the hell do you mean? What do you want? Because it was completely unclear. I mean, I understood what they meant because I've seen that kind of campaigning before in Sweden, and in Sweden it ended up with the party not entering the parliament. The Feministisk Initiative had that kind of campaigning. But you know, a lot of stupid shit is just brought in here, hook, line, and sinker, without any filter.
Yeah, but that was actually not the opposition. That was well.
It's a third-party NGO that wants to promote.
There are 6, not parties, but groups that you can vote for in this election. 4 of them legit, and 2 of them that glow in the dark.
Okay, how do they glow in the dark?
Well, this party that you mentioned, that had this weird mime thing, is called, I think it's called Megoldás Mozgalom, which is a party founded this January by an oligarch called Gattyán György. Hungary Today describes him as a porn tycoon.
Okay, seems legit.
So he's just basically a rich guy who founded a party like this January and runs.
Vote for me and I'll fuck you in the ass.
It's like a technocratic party. I really don't follow anything, but you know.
Fuck.
Pornographic technocracy. You gotta love this country. I mean, come on, that's awesome. All right, so that's the one. Let's go through all of the smaller parties.
Yeah, the other one that glows in the dark is NEP, which means the people. It's an abbreviation of Normális Élet Pártja, which means the party of normal life. It's funded by Gödény György, who is a well-known con man, basically.
Yeah, I was about to say, isn't that the crook?
Yeah, he's the crook who ran in 2018 with a completely new party.
Yeah, that's what
as well. And now he is campaigning basically on the anti-coup ticket. So no coup restrictions, vote for me. But it's yet again a party that he just
It's
made.
the one that salutes like this.
No, that's another one. They also run on the anti-coup ticket. And then there are the four legitimate ones. One of them is the two-tailed dog party, which is our joke party that decided to go legit for some reason.
For our German friends, imagine Die Partei starting taking itself seriously. That's basically the dog party. Okay, so tell us about the dog party. They used to be trolls.
Yeah, they were basically trolling the government with all sorts of messages. They had an anti-border fence campaign. They're activists, they're pacifists. Regularly appear.
As we mentioned yesterday, they take it up the ass.
They're basically rector. Okay.
Regularly appear at LGBT Pride and all sorts
course.
of. Yeah, they call themselves centrists, but we all know that they are basically just socialists, like hipsters, Budapest hipsters.
It's fucking Hungary. Of course they're leftists.
Okay, and now I guess starting with the campaign against the border wall, they started slowly taking themselves seriously.
Yeah, basically that's when they started to get a bit more serious, and now they unironically run on the election. So, yeah, I don't exactly know if they have a party program because they don't really say much. They use basically the same joke slogans and the joke promises that they did years ago.
Maybe they're preparing to troll the fucking parliament. In the fucking parliament!
The threshold is still 5%, right?
Yes, they currently poll at around 3%.
We know a party that polled around 2% and got 10.
Yeah.
If you troll hard enough, you can troll your way into the parliament. All right. So then there's the one that opposes COVID dictatorship.
Yes, that's the party called Mi Hazánk, Our Home, which is founded by Toroczkai László, who is banned in Romania for arms dealing. And basically they are the radical fascists who got out of Jobbik because Jobbik was beginning to become global homo. And so the radical fascists basically fucked off and went into Mi Hazánk. And that's an actual legit party.
In the sense that they believe what they say.
Yeah, they believe what they say, and they actually campaign. They have actual MPs, and actual people who are well known. Then they've been doing this for like 30 years, ever since the fall of socialism. They were doing all sorts of activism. In the previous 1 or 2 years, basically under the coup epidemic, they have been doing some very great propaganda and politics and lawfare against the measures. So even though they officially poll at 3.5%, I think they will probably get into parliament. I don't know, but I think it's probable. Because I actually talked to liberals, like liberals who were really considering voting for Mi Hazánk because fuck the pandemic measures.
So I guess that would I was discussing with someone from the intelligence community, and they were saying that look, the war fell exactly right. It's gonna because it just pleases enough people at once, because since the war started, obviously the pandemic is over in Eastern Europe. So now suddenly everyone who built their campaign around the pandemic measures is now found themselves, as we say in football, in the offside position.
Yes. And they had actual legit and good talking points, and that convinced a bunch of people, and they've been campaigning all around the country, and they are basically the anti-coup party who actually has a chance. So if somebody wants to vote for the anti-coup ticket, then they are going to vote for Mi Hazánk, basically.
Okay, so these will be the third and the fourth.
Well, the other two are Fidesz and the opposition. Those are the rest.
Mm-hmm. So it's going to be a short ballot as opposed to previous elections.
Yeah, because the election rules have gotten stricter, with the 5% and 5% entry level to the parliament and all that.
That's stupid. You're too small as a country to have a 5%.
Moldova is even smaller. It has the same rules.
They never said the Moldavians are smart.
The opposition was complaining a lot in 2018 and in 2014 about the fake parties, like the ones that Gödény György found. And so Fidesz basically said, okay, then we'll just raise the entry level.
The threshold.
The threshold, yes.
But it's always funnier when there are fake parties. I mean, the election in the Netherlands, for instance, where the threshold is called the natural threshold, so 0.6 for one MP. It's much funnier because you have the pensioners party and the vegetarian pensioners party and the party, because of course they have their own version of the party because you have to.
Why not?
I mean, if the threshold had been smaller in Romania, we would have created the party, Partidul. And just go and probably would have gotten votes.
Long live the party.
Yes, long live the party, and would have probably gotten votes from the older ladies because you have to vote for the party. I mean, come on. Yeah, so it's much funnier when there are fake parties and smaller parties. One more question. There have been claims. I know they're fake, but few people do. There have been claims. Let's say in Deutsche Welle, I've seen it in Politico, so where hipsters read. There have been claims that the Ukrainian refugees are treated suboptimally here. All three of us have seen that is not the case. There was a specific train that arrived in Szeged with refugees. The police showed up to make sure they're all escorted exactly where they have to. Very gentle behavior. Where is that coming from?
That policeman was just carrying the kid on from his hand.
So
you don't see that when they're treating them
We've
poorly.
obviously seen that that's not the case, but where does that coming from?
I have no idea. I mean, of course, the government propaganda says, "Oh, we treat everybody, we take care of everybody," but the actual NGOs who do these kinds of human rights work also say that it's well organized, they are well treated, and everything is well done.
It's one of those situations where actually everyone agrees with the government. Yeah, so where do these claims come from?
I really have no idea.
Mm-hmm. Whose interest?
Somebody on the outside of
the country could be, yes. I mean, whose interest is to?
Well, probably some left-wing pressure NGOs.
I hate Orban crowd.
Or somebody with ties in the mafia, because if you force them to transport the refugees over Hungary and into Austria, it's easier to lose track of them.
Yeah, the human trafficking lobby, which although officially doesn't exist, of course it exists, and it has
100 years of history.
A lot more than that. As a lobby, yes.
Yeah.
Just 100 years, yes, as a lobby. As a practice, a lot longer.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's somebody in the outside with interest in the lobby, in the human trafficking lobby.
Well, they either have no idea what's going on, or they are lying.
No, but they do know.
Yeah, it's more likely intentional lying.
Yeah.
They do know that kind of lie doesn't pop up. Because you don't know. When you don't know, you go and ask.
Yeah.
And at least one of them will tell you, no, the other is talking bullshit.
Yeah, and it's not like in Poland or Romania where there's so many crossing points with Ukraine that it's very difficult. You have to travel hundreds of kilometers to check things. Here there's two, essentially.
I've traveled for 10 hours to check out how the refugees are welcomed and shit.
Yeah. And basically everybody coming from Ukraine is allowed to enter, like everybody.
There was that situation at some point. They restricted it only to those that had biometric passports, but it was soon abolished.
Yeah. So basically they allow anybody in, and the Hungarians started to get active. They donated a lot. I donated a lot. and all the NGOs are basically taking care of the refugees. And so far, I don't know of any legit claims of them being treated badly or anything like that.
It's kind of hard in the 21st century to
And I mean, why would you?
mistreat them because it's online. Everything is fucking online.
Yeah, and why would you? As
Why would you mistreat them? I mean, there is basically no reason to do so.
as
They're
opposed to
Putinists.
they're Putinists.
Yeah, maybe some MZP commandos.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
That was a call and raise.
Well, it happens. All right. Then I guess that will be pretty much it for before the election. We'll tape another one like this a day after the election with the results in front of us.
And Marki-Zay crying on the background.
Who knows? You know, maybe he wins. I mean, come on.
If he doesn't win, you have the.
Yeah, we'll use the segment with your daughter crying.
I wanted to circle a bit back to Mi Hazánk because there's an important aspect that I have not mentioned, which is, well, I can't prove, or I don't know, if they are actually funded by the Kremlin, but they are...
Surely they've been accused.
They
of
are
this.
Kremlin adjacent, or there is the past with Jobbik, because most of these guys are from Jobbik, and Jobbik had an MP who went to the referendum in the Crimea to count votes, and that guy now lives in Russia. And also they appear to be a relatively well-funded party as well. They say that it's from Hungarian donors, but I have no idea. And they are consistently anti-NATO, and they have these campaign promises that sort of glow in the dark, such as they want to rent prisoners out to Siberia. They would basically pay the Russian government to hold prisoners, Hungarian prisoners in Siberia.
Okay, that's a Russian-funded one.
Yeah, that glows. That really glows.
I mean, you don't send your own prisoners to the fuck knows where.
But it's a tough on crime idea, that they want to be tough on crime, and
Kazakhstan, to Magadan.
It's not good enough to actually lock them up. We have to send them to Siberia. That's the idea, basically.
Yeah, I know a guy that was convicted as a genocidal criminal for sending people to Siberia and gulags. It's called Stalin.
Yeah,
and his followers, his own party, said that his actions were crimes against humanity.
Yeah, to be fair, there are labor camps in Russia today.
Yeah.
Okay, for Russians.
And also,
not for Hungarians.
Also, Toroczkai László regularly talks about the northern civilization, which sounds very familiar, like Eurasianism from Alexander Dugin and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it kind of glows in the dark, and I can't prove anything, but I have my suspicions.
The part with the prisoners, it's either troll.
No, they mean what they say. These people are insane.
Psychiatric ward.
Again, I was asking earlier, what has the Hungarian Psychiatric School of Thought been doing lately? They used to be quite good. I mean,
get them out on the screens and explain to the people what diseases are.
But then again, some of the based things that Fidesz does are originally Mi Hazánk or former Jobbik ideas, like the border wall or the pedo law and all sorts of things.
They are framed in a way that is not that glowy.
Yeah.
I mean, for fuck's sake, they made a wall, but they made a wall in the right moment. In 2015, when
with the proper context.
Yeah, it was a huge influx of refugees going through Hungary to Germany. Don't build a wall because you dreamed it last night.
Yeah, this is also another thing I wanted to circle back to, is the is the refugee situation, because the government, of course, has been called out that, oh, you hated refugees so far, so why are you taking the Ukrainians? You're
These
a
are
racist.
white refugees.
And of course, the linguistic trick is that those people are not refugees that they talk about. Fidesz was anti-mass migration and illegal migration. And you know, when a couple of thousands of young men from the Middle East show up at our southern border, they of course want to defend it. But when there is a war right next door, the next country, according to international law, they are refugees.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we take them and we take care of them. So yeah, basically the Orban man bad, he hates refugees just does not stick.
Yeah, but it sticks only with the highly naive and highly emotional who really you don't have to be an expert in international law. Of course, the first neighboring country of a war has a duty to receive the refugees, whereas, you know, last time I checked, please correct me if I'm wrong, Hungary doesn't neighbor Pakistan or Syria, so as a result, there is no duty, there was no duty for...
Well, maybe if we get some territory back, maybe.
There's a lot of territory all the way to Pakistan.
The fuck did you want the Mongol Empire back?
Well, you know, once a Mongol, always a Mongol.
You know, there was a joke under socialism, the Hungarian-Japanese border. Because the Soviet Union did not annex us, we annexed the Soviet Union.
Ooh.
Which is kind of true, because Mongols are...
Yeah, but to be fair, there were other jokes like these during the Soviet times, just the socialist times, such as, for instance, what will the weather prognosis look like in 2030? The joke is from 1975. This morning there will be tomorrow morning there will be some rain, but towards the latter part of the day the temperatures will rise and eventually the rain will stop, but it will still not be a good time for beach time. Meanwhile, in the rest of China the weather will be just fine. So, you know, that was the joke in 1975 and it was told here and in Romania. I mean, I'm just saying. You know, some of these things can have prophetic value, I'm just saying. Yeah, speaking of, has Fidesz even tried to nuance some of their previous xenophilic positions?
No, not really.
I guess no one called them out.
I mean, Orbán Viktor is basically completely a xenophile.
It's haram, dude, as a socialist, to call someone upon his love of socialism.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I know Orbán Viktor is a xenophile, but then again, Romania got into NATO with a xenophile prime minister. Yeah. So, you know, the fact that he's a xenophile does not preclude Fidesz from trying to nuance things, but I guess no one called them out on it.
I mean, they called them out on it, but they did it shit.
In an unprofessional manner.
Yeah. I mean, the opposition is not really that good at propaganda, so...
Not to mention that they're xenophiles too.
I mean, they had some protests against the Fudan University, which I'd say
fair enough.
I mean, I'd say they are legit, but you know, when you look at them,
yeah.
Right. I guess let's give some prognostics. So numbers. Throw numbers.
I'm not talking about numbers.
Well, I'd say the most probable outcome is a Fidesz win, maybe not with the 2/3. I don't think it's going to be the 2/3. Mi Hazánk in parliament, and the Dog Party is not in parliament. That's maybe somewhere between 5
trolling more.
Yeah.
Too bad. It would have been glorious to have also a trolling party. Yeah, with some reserves, and the reason I say with some reserves is because in countries that have less than 10 million people, sometimes something stupid happening in the morning of the election can change the entire calculus.
Yes,
so
there have been some allegations just yesterday on voter fraud from Transylvania and all that.
Although, to be fair, that may have some propaganda value, but in actual terms...
Yeah, in actual terms...
Flip an MP, maybe?
Yeah, a single MP, basically the Hungarians living around Hungary, they account for a single MP in parliament. So why bother with cheating? Basically,
I could understand doing that in the Békés county, but for the broad constituency, yeah. So that's why I say with some reserves, I do expect Fidesz to win, but at a much closer score than the public polls, which of course are almost all of them made to manipulate public opinion.
Yes, of course.
But probably tonight or tomorrow morning I'll get some access to some internal polling, which are made to inform the operatives. So probably by then I'll know more. But you know, we won't record tomorrow. Tomorrow, hopefully, it will be as nice as it is now, which is no rain. So there's that. Is there anything that we have forgotten to cover as a pre-election analysis?
I don't think so.
No, not for me.
Sure. Then, with all of that being said, Daniel, thanks a lot for taking the time, and see you all soon. You lucky bastards, you already know the results by the time you're watching this. So if we ended up being stupid in public and Marki-Zay Peter wins, the next video is going to be glorious. Too bad I didn't bring my honks with me. Hopefully I won't need them. All right, cheers.